Hey guys, today I'm making a resin river table out of what is called carrot wood. Carrot wood is an invasive species down here in South Florida. You'll see it all over the place. And really, more or less for curiosity's sake, I wanted to see what I could make out of this slab and whether it would actually turn out any good. So here we go. So I started out, like always, we flatten the slab. I use my router sled, and then cleaning up any of the included bark or soft areas or dirty wood just to try to give the epoxy some solid place to adhere to during the pour. So next I plan out kind of where I'm going to cut it in half just so there's, a satisfying amount of wood on each side of the river. And I made my form and placed the pieces in, the side up that I like the most. And make sure to clamp it down when you're doing these resin river tables, otherwise the wood will float and basically you'll make a big mess instead of a table. As is typical, I go with Black Diamond brand pigment, and this time I chose a golden indigo color that I thought would look pretty cool with the table. The type epoxy that I use, it's Pro Marine Supplies brand epoxy, and I've had a lot of success with it. When mixing the epoxy, it's really important that you mix it well so it'll cure. Always scrape your sides. And then with this particular epoxy, you have to kind of build it up in layers. So I pour probably about 1/4 inch per pour and just let it cure in between. As the epoxy cures, the bubbles are going to come to the surface and you don't want those in your final piece. So you can use a torch, or in this case, I'm using a heat gun, which I enjoy because I don't have to worry as much about starting fires. Generally about the time of my last pour, I take any of the excess epoxy and I use it to fill any of the little bug holes or cracks or any of the places that I want to have epoxy in the final piece. Also take this time to try to add a little bit of swirl, a little bit of interest within the epoxy, and then once again with the heat gun, popping all those pesky bubbles. After 72 hours, the resin will be completely cured and it's safe to remove it from the mold. So just kind of bang it apart here and then get the wood slab released. So I use a Tyvek tape, which is a plastic sheathing tape, just to prevent the epoxy from sticking. And then afterward is just a little bit of patience and kind of using these wooden wedges to get it released from the mold. Off camera, I took the slab over to my friend Adam's shop. He's got a big industrial sander that he allows me to rent some time on, and I get it sanded down. And in the sanding process, you always find little imperfections. So here I'm using a little 5-minute epoxy just to fill in any areas that I wanted to touch up before I finish this thing off. So next I use a combination of my table saw and a circular saw to kind of shape it up, square the edges, and get rid of any of the excess epoxy that had overflowed. And we can start shaping this thing and getting it ready for finish. I put a 1/2 inch round over on all the sides with my router and then spent a considerable amount of time sanding. As this table was ultimately going on my back porch, I used a spar urethane, which is a little bit more robust kind of outside finish, just so it would hold up a little bit better. It's always fun to see that resin come to life, and I tell you, this carrot wood isn't that bad. For this table, I decided to go with a set of hairpin legs. I had used them on another table previously that I liked them a lot, liked the look, and I thought they would work well. I decided to go with these threaded inserts just to make it so if I ever had to remove the legs from the table, just to give it a try. And they worked out pretty well. I like how it ultimately came out. And with that, the table is done. And I think it came out pretty good. I'm glad that I was able to make something pretty cool out of this wood. The carrot wood really surprised me with how pretty it is. It's got a little bit of curl, got some unique figure in it, and yeah, it's pretty wood. So all in all, guys, I appreciate you watching. And if you have any comments or suggestions for me, I'd love to hear about it. And above all, I'll check you next time. This is Lox Life, guys. Thanks for watching.